I think I've got everything underway. So I'd like to introduce Panos, CEO and co-founder at Xenos, Dax, strategy director at Smile, Emily, head of marketing at Founders Forum Group, and Marianne, founder and CEO at My Digital?
Map Digital.
Map Digital, thank you. I'll hand over to you. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Panos, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Xenos. I know Matt said keep the questions kind to the panel. I will say don't go all out. Our intention is to keep it real, which means any question you might have, go for it. Just to give you a little bit of context of how we came about this session. So we are a sponsor for Eventec Live, and when they give us a slot, we have two options. We can just do a session about Xenos and what we do, and get everybody will get bored. But instead, we thought maybe we can get an event organizer, somebody from a creative agency, and the event supplier side, so that we will have an honest conversation. We will have a theme around data, AI, and how it touches every stakeholder. But of course, we're going to keep it a little bit more open. So again, for context, Marianne, she's the founder and CEO of Map Digital. They have an amazing platform for hybrid events. Emily, she's with Founders Forum Group, and she's working head of marketing there. And Dax, he's on Smile, a creative agency. So did I butcher any of the introductions or not? We're good. Perfect. So we're going to get started with the first question. And I want you to speak from your own... Thank you. Thank you, Dax. And we want to get everybody's viewpoint, as the creative agency, as the event organizer, as the technology provider. So I want to start with what role does AI currently play at your events? And you can use examples of how you have used it, how you're trying to use it, and so forth. But draw from your experience on how AI and data analytics is informing decisions around activations, the attendee experience, and so forth. So who would like to go first?
I guess I will. Is this on? Yeah. You can hear me?
No.
This is not working.
Take mine.
Check. Hello, hello. It's working now. Hold on.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, I think, so it's a big question you've asked Panos about how are data analytics and AI currently used. I think in many ways the jury's out on AI, actually. Still early days, but data is everywhere. So I'll come back to AI maybe, but data definitely. The way I think of data is there's two types of data. There's performance data. That's the data that tells you what's happening and how's it working. And so if you set up an exhibit, a stand, and you need to get a certain number of people into that, you can use data to understand, are we getting the right number of people that we've targeted? That doesn't tell you anything about whether you're achieving business goals. And so the second type of data is impact data. And I think you need to find other ways to gauge actual potential business impact. Like, for example, how many of those people are qualified leads? That's a business indicator versus a traffic monitor. You may want to get tons of people into your exhibit. It might look busy and might feel very sexy and cool, but it has no causal relationship on business results. And so I think it's important for us as data people to think about different types of data and how we use them. We can use that first data to optimize the experience in the stand. We can say, where are people moving? Is it spread appropriately? Is it really busy in one spot, dead in others? And we can optimize based on that information. The impact data we can use to make future decisions. Was the event a good investment? Did we perform well at the event? Did it deliver the business results that we were seeking? So we use data all the time, Smile, to do this type of assessment. There is a third one, and it's actually near and dear to your heart, which is, did the experience deliver value to the participants, to your visitors? And I think you either can do that or should do that through some kind of question, survey. Was this a good use of your time? That's my favorite question to ask in a survey. Or you can do more experimental metrics or experimental technologies like facial analysis to understand, are people present? Are they paying attention? Are they interested? Are they happy? And that's a more interesting and newer technology that gives you a set of data to work with.
Thank you for the response. And I'm going to add one more comment on my end. where we see the most value is when you combine all the sources of information, all the three levels, and from different technologies, and that's how you should inform decisions. We always say don't focus only one data point, one technology, one source. You have to take everything in context and combine the information to get the most accurate results. Who wants to go next? Same question.
So at Founders Forum, we are focused on really curated events, and something called curated serendipity is kind of our secret sauce. So for us, it's less about the numbers and the quantitative metrics, and it's really more about that qualitative data. And so interestingly, AI is helping us to collect, very interesting qualitative data. And I think, Dax, to your point, it's important not to get hung up on vanity metrics. Yes, we have all sorts of performance data available to us, but why are we collecting it? Let's focus on the impact data and actually, okay, what are the numbers that are going to tell us we're measurably improving on our business goals? So the sort of two ways we use AI currently at Founders Forum. One is in our app. So we work with Venue IQ, and we use an app that uses artificial intelligence to recommend connections that you should be making on site at our event, which is an excellent tool because we don't have scheduled meetings. We have, again, curated serendipity. And so this is really meant to bolster that networking experience for our guests and to help them get the most out of the day and to prioritize, okay, I'm going to meet with this person. There are 700 people here today, but how can I actually, get some deals done and meet the people I need to meet? This second sort of way that we use AI is with Zenus. So we look and we review, okay, based on sentiment analysis and based on facial recognition, how do we feel that our audiences are responding to the content that we curate? And then we're able to feed that back to partners, and we're able to say, okay, we work together to curate this panel. Based on the data that Zenus has provided, this topic didn't land. We thought it would based on performance data points, but actually the result is that people were not as interested in this particular topic. We talk a lot about the metaverse, and we congregate people who are sort of the tech titans, and they're the biggest people, the biggest players in tech. And funnily enough, little is known on the metaverse, and so we have to kind of come at these topics from different angles so that we're able to sort of break down the topic for, yes, people who know tons about tech, but may not know very much about Web3. And so having that facial recognition and being able to say, okay, people are very confused right now, and okay, this is resonating. That's just invaluable data for us to take back to our speakers and to our partners.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emily. Marianne?
Yeah, I think we have different food groups of data coming from the point of view and who is your client and what's your activation about. Map Digital, our company, we've been working, we're in New York City, so we work with the financial services, and we do investment banking conferences. And since 2000, the SEC mandated webcasting. So we've had a whole level of content data that, our clients are really having these events, their markets, to match the buy side with the sell side, the publicly traded company with the investor. That's all that it's about. And any piece of data that we can give to the sales, equity, research side that will move a trade forward is considered essential. However, our content data, like who watched what, Verizon, who downloaded the slides, who asked a question. For the early days, our salespeople were saying, well, we went to lunch with this person, we played golf, we have our derivatives analytical platform, and that content data doesn't mean much to us. And I come from direct marketing. I used to work at Wonderman. I used to do Time Life and Merrill Lynch, and that type of stuff was really saying that data is really important. What happened to us is the major epiphany was the pandemic. All of a sudden, there was no lunches, there was no golf courses, and those salespeople had our content data that we were begging them to look at for years. Now they're addicted to it because what they can do is they have all the analytical data they have the marketing activation data, they might even have the sentiment data, but now they know what everyone clicked on, where they went. And also there might be one investor at the conference, there's 10 of his colleagues or her colleagues engaging because of webcasting in that content. So they're seeing that this content data is shading in a larger level. We need AI to put this all together. And when we're putting this all together, this combination of data, we're calling it leads as a service. it's a much more robust sort of predictive to match people on site. And also then for DAC, for some of your activations, you can go back to your client saying, well, you thought this was great, but this was trending based on clicks. So it's like the Google or the Amazon. So we said basically the starvation diet of the pandemic has enlightened our sales department to become addicted to content data. But that, once it's opened that door, it opens the door to all the other activations. And I think this is the time now to be talking about AI, machine learning, because our clients, I just came from a day with my major client here in Canary Wharf, their minds have been opened, and they are looking for the next.
Thank you, Marianne. I will go off script because I heard things such as vanity metrics, going with very intentional approach on what kind of data we get and how we're using them, and interactions with clients. So I want to ask each of you, from your own point of view, what are some challenges you have seen when you are working with event organizers, suppliers, or agencies? What are some of the challenges you have seen? For example, do you think the event organizers are always thinking about data strategy in the right way? Do they have the resources to support it? When you're talking to an event supplier, do they understand what you really care about as the event organizer? How do you give us a little bit more context? As I said, nothing is off the table. So I want to get your honest, it frustrates me so much when event organizers do that. It frustrates me so much when event technology suppliers do that. Any stories you have, please
yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
start. I mean, I think there's two different kinds of organizers, and there's a distinction between the two. There's organizers of events like this, and there are sort of corporate event organizers. So I have a point of view about each, and I'll try to be quick. I think the problem or the challenge with exhibit show or trade show organizers is their primary goal seems to be sell stuff, sell floor space, sell signage. And so they're actually almost creating like a menu approach to say, here's our cost, here's what we're selling, buy what you want, and good luck, right? However, they should be experts and consultants when it comes to what success looks like for their exhibitors and sponsors. And what I wish trade show organizers would do more of is advise their sponsoring partners and exhibitors on how to make the most out of the event. They should understand the audience, the industry. They should be consulting and using data on their industry, on their audience, on what works, and observationally data, what they've seen, to help people make an impact on site. So that this investment, I'm not saying they may do this, I'm just saying in general, so that this investment pays off for all parties involved, and it's not just like, sorry it didn't work out for you, here's what it costs next year. Now for corporate organizers, the challenge I have around data is they often want to show their data in the best possible light in order to protect a budget or to make their executives happy who are spending lots of money in this channel versus other channels. Like events are by person touched the most expensive channel by far. And so they're often the first thing that the CFO or CMO is like, I'm cutting. So the events teams are like, I've got to protect this. I've got to use data to show why we're doing this, which I support. But if it's not credible, honest data, or the honest look at that data, then it doesn't, it's keeping things going, and it's like propagating a negative kind of cycle, essentially. So, but I think the way it should be is that you take an honest assessment, you highlight what successes were, but you're always looking for continuous improvement. Where do we fix problems? How do we make things better? And even reporting that to your stakeholders as an event organizer is a very interesting and constructive conversation that I have found also protects the budget. So it's not about just saying it was the best thing we ever did and here's incredible scores. It's saying what actually happened and how do we make it better next time.
I love it, and we have experienced the same thing. So we have seen event managers misreporting data. I'll just be very blunt. We have seen it. People misreporting data just to satisfy somebody who is supervising them. And this almost always backfires, maybe in the short term, medium term. So what Dax, you are saying, be honest about what you are getting. There's definitely going to be successes. There's definitely going to be spaces for improvement. So just be honest about it and have a real conversation with your stakeholders. So 100% agree with you. Anybody else who wants to chip in?
Sure. I think it's really interesting, Dax, hearing you talk about, helping partners get the most out of an event and really getting them to take that initiative and saying, okay, this is your opportunity to highlight your brand. Let's do that. So what are your objectives? And let's set KPIs that actually help us measure against those. And so I think when it comes to the supply side for us, we love working with suppliers that make it really easy for us to deliver for partners and that make it a really streamlined guest experience. We're all about these 5-star events. They're highly curated. And when it comes to sort of high-end luxury events, that's a difficult model to scale. It's not very scalable. But when we have incredible tech partners and incredible sort of app partners and suppliers who are willing to really work with us and be flexible, that allows us to streamline the events, to take the sort of onus off of our team, our internal team, and to be able to deliver these 5-star events that are actually a little bit more scalable. So I think what really kind of grinds my gears for me as a client, and I've been on both sides, so I think I can speak to both, but is when suppliers are not flexible and they say, this is out of the box, this is our solution, you have to use it this way. And one briefing call, for me to hop on a call and explain our entire business model to you is not enough. And you need to work with me on an ongoing basis to make sure that I'm using your tool and I'm using your service in a way that's conducive to my business goals. So I think we really prize our partners who work with us and who will be flexible and go, oh, this isn't part of our sort of out-of-the-box solution right now, or this isn't part of our roadmap, but that's great feedback. And so we're going to work with you to develop this. We're going to work with you to optimize your use of our tool so that you continue getting more out of it and you're building on that sort of use over time.
So to summarize, what I'm hearing from Dax is, while we would like the event organizers to have, especially for trade shows, a more consulting approach with the exhibitors, the brands, the sponsors, but what I'm also hearing from Emily was that as the event organizer, I want my suppliers to have a consulting approach with me and help me make a solution that works for my events and my objectives. So it looks like it goes both ways.
But I think the flexibility point is an interesting one. You mentioned, and I have no vested interest, but you mentioned Venue IQ, for example. And Venue IQ is, in the world of mobile app providers, very flexible. They're like, let's adapt. Let's put some development against what your goals are, where many, many, many other app technology providers are like, this is what it is. You can reskin it. That's it. And so that flexibility is critical.
I'd love to address that because our origin story was, I started doing kiosks. I did a kiosk for an event in 1996 that turned into be the largest healthcare conference investment banking in the world. Oh, yeah. You can't hear. Yeah, so I started with a client and 26 years ago, and I'm still with them. And what we did was we had a seat at the table. And I come from advertising, and David Ogilvy would say, never say no to a client. So we're at the right place at the right time when the internet was young, the trust was there, a woman-run company at a major bank, one of the top 3, and then just constantly serving and developing, and we were on site and constantly innovating and constantly working. And it came to the point, we are the only technology provider for webcasting, for the IT, for signage. We do it's like a digital circus. And then there came a point where I can't build anymore. I'm not going to build your AI. That's another thing. So my job right now is integration is innovation. And I have a quarterly meeting with the head of equity and the head of sales and say, here's what's out on the street that we should be working at. And some of the people are in this room, and I'm looking at them right now. There are content optimization platforms. There are machine learning platforms that will take a video and make a snippet in 3-minute snippet. Saves me a lot of time and effort. We're constantly bringing new ideas to our client. We're the basis, but we're looking to say, here's who you should be partnering with, and here's who we all should be working together. It's collaborative. It's not like my IP is better than your IP. I'll work with a client, even if I work with a competitor, if it serves the purpose of the project, and if that client gives me a seat at the table. Most technology providers, we're always wanting to be solutioning. We're addicted to finding solutions and providing value. So I think the Web 3.0, we're calling it Event 3.0, is interconnected platforms. It's either partner or perish. And if anyone is like so fixed in their IP, they're just not going to be around for a while. I mean, here we have big opportunities and big problems to solve. It's time to get together.
I think just to add to that point, Marianne, integrations are just everything. Absolutely everything. And this year in particular, so our goal at the moment at Founders Forum Group is creating a single customer view. And we use Salesforce as our CRM. And so we're plugging everything into Salesforce. We're integrating everything so that we're able to go into someone's profile and literally see every digital touch point with them, and then through the app and through our tracking, see as many in-person touch points as we can. And that helps us hugely because we're then able to, if the individual has opted into marketing communications and if they've opted into being tracked on site, we don't have to ask them what they're interested in. We can see, they attended XYZ session, and in our follow-up communications, we're going to talk to them about XYZ topics because that's what's pertinent to them, and we're not wasting their time and having them fill out a survey to tell us that. We're leveraging technology to be able to streamline that and deliver a super curated experience, not just at the event, but afterwards as well. And I'm always really attracted to the suppliers who are really keen to think about, okay, we could integrate it this way, but what about if we integrate it this way, and then we bring in this tool, and then we kind of take this view, and it just brings us one step closer to achieving a single customer view, which is just invaluable to us as marketers.
So, Emily, thank you for that point. You know that we very much believe in the attendee journey, in tracking their interests and so forth. But let's talk about challenges, because you said you're putting everything together on the same place using Salesforce. What things don't work as you were expecting? What are the challenges you are anticipating or you have already come across? And then the same questions for everyone. What happens when things don't work out as seamless as we want them?
I mean, the thing that immediately comes to mind is a basic Salesforce sync issue where you design a beautiful custom integration and then it's as granular and it's as simple as, okay, the fields aren't mapping, and that could be a typo. And you have to dive in and you have to really get into the weeds and you have to make sure that, everything is working as you've designed it to. So CRM, I think pretty famously, you can take 2 steps forward and then you can take 3 steps back when you're kind of tidying up and streamlining data. But I think that overall, the biggest pitfall that I see is kind of a greediness when it comes to data. There's so much available to us, and we go, I want this, I want to know this, I want to know this. But actually, one, we're responsible for collecting data that is proportionate to our use cases under the GDPR. So we need to be compliant there. And then secondarily, we don't want to create a ton of work for our teams that actually isn't serving us because we've collected all of this data. We want to be collecting data that is pertinent to our business. Again, data points that we've sort of strategically mapped out and we know, okay, if we measure these things, we know that we're mapping towards our impact goals and our business goals. And then not just collecting data, I think, for the sake of collecting data, and really honing in, okay, what's helpful to me, and not having the Salesforce become sort of an overwhelming maze of data.
I have a follow-up question on what you said. How much time do you spend on the strategy about what data points you do need to collect, and how do you think about it? Because in our experience, a lot of the times we will get people coming to us, say, I want data, and they don't know what they want to use the data for. And this comes as an afterthought after the event. So how much time do you actually spend, and what is the ROI you're getting out of that?
Isn't it like the cat and the mouse? I mean, isn't like, it's like the chicken and the egg. It's like, first of all, what's the experience? And what's the KPI? It's sometimes a data point, and it's like, how will success be measured? And sometimes it's not just like, I need to see these granular. You need to think about the whole totality of the experience, of what you're asking your stakeholders or your customer. If your customer's at the center, how can you continue to have experiences around them that will be triggering data that's going to be informing your business decisions? So I think I think you have to have the art and as well as the process and as well as, the sort of analytics going together. We get clients saying, well, I want to be data, but they don't really tell us what the arc of the attendee is. Like, what are you asking them to do? And then second of all, like, how are you going to use this? So that's why the whole real art is having seats at the table and having conversations. These things don't happen overnight, and they don't happen via an RFP. You basically pick your providers, pick your advisors, pick your creative agencies, and these are big problems to work out. Big opportunities to work out. So sometimes we get these questions, and it's like, can we just start to the first question is like, why are they coming to your event? What do you want to make them feel? And then go backwards. So I think sometimes we get caught up in the weeds a little bit when we don't even see the sea.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've actually touched on a key topic in my world, which is the big question, why? And it is always the question that I will ask to get to the truth. Because someone might say, we want a lot of social media followers. Why? We want a lot of traffic to our stand. Why? We want a lot of leads. Why? If I ask like an annoying kid why enough times, finally I'll get to what is the business challenge and what is the data point that will help us illustrate whether we tackled that challenge. And so the why is critical, and I would say to anyone who wants to set up a data strategy, make sure you're clear on the why. Why are we gathering this data? What is it actually showing us? Or what will it show us about the business challenge that we're trying to address? The other thing I just wanted to say quickly is, I think one of the pitfalls is an over-reliance on data. And when it comes to things like CRM, for example, and I say this as Salesforce is a Smile client, and we're talking about Customer 360, which is exactly what you're saying. I believe that collecting customer data is critical, but I also think data doesn't engender trust. And so you can customize a marketing message to someone's precise interests, but it doesn't engender trust. And I think as event people, which I imagine most people here, we are in the unique position to have human interaction. And if you can use data to make human interaction better, amazing. If you walk up to me and I can see, here are your interests, it kicks off a conversation. The trust, though, comes from the vibe that we get from each other and the authenticity of that conversation. That's not driven by data.
I think, too, data is limiting in terms of longitudinal reach and sort of the time frame. So if we look at our events, we can do a post-event survey and ask, how many people did you have conversations with where you think this is going to yield a deal for you in the next 6 months? And we ask that to the VCs that attend our events and to the founders. And we have sort of ranges, and we collect that data, and it gives us a good sense of, okay, were we bringing together the right people, the right investors, and the right founders, et cetera. But that doesn't help us measure these incredible impact stories where you have over 5 years, they met at a founders forum in, X year, and that, investor became the first investor in this really incredible idea, and they've been on this journey together, and now the company is growing and scaling, and it's over that 5-year period that you've seen this incredible success story, and we get these incredible sort of this anecdotal evidence and these testimonials that are really strong, and that's so crucial to supplement the quant data with.
Yeah, I totally agree, and you mentioned how important qualitative data is and asking people, staff or customers about the quality of the experience and the anticipated results. So, for example, we never use ROI. That term does not exist at Smile. And the reason is because, as you just said, the deal, the sale, could happen 5 years later. And to try to attribute that to the event is just bullshit. And so we don't use ROI because ROI assumes that the closing of a sale that may have happened with many touch points over a long time can be attributed to what happened at the event. But qualitative input, what people said about their experience, their likelihood to change purchase behaviors, gold. So I totally align to that.
There's also, I think, really important to be aware of, as you've said, correlation, not causation. We can draw really strong causal links, but we can't make, really out there claims about the causes of our actions. And the other thing is, too, being mindful of when the data is self-reported, there's a bias there, and we can't actually trust it 100%. So there's different sources of data, and I think we pull in different integrations and we're pulling data from different sources, and we always compare it to the self-reported data. But it is important to sort of apply that lens at the end of the day and go, even the self-reported data, which we take as the closest source of truth, can have bias to it and be impacted. Yeah, it's never going to be perfect.
If I may go back to my original point about combining the different sources of information, we did the deployment last week. And our service was showing very clearly that one area was getting more traffic than the other, and it shouldn't. This wasn't designed this way. What we did, we went on site and we asked the people working the different demonstrations, hey, we are noticing this thing in the data. Why? Why do we see people going this path and not going through the journey that it was designed for them? And this gave us the extra insights to help the organizer then go and make the necessary changes. So it's the combination of the data, where you get some signals, you ask people to get the qualitative input, you ask the attendee themselves, and that's how you're creating the whole story to go and answer the deeper questions, like why. And sorry for chipping in, this is very recent in my memory, and I just had to.
I mean, I think it's an important point, which is, if we are experts in events, then we can analyze the data and make real sense of it and draw insight from it that just a data analyst cannot.
Yeah.
And so I think it is okay for us to combine our expert analysis of the data in our reporting and not just say, here's what happened, but here's how you should think about it. And I know there's inherent bias in that, but I do think if your heart's in the right place and you're trying to drive improvement, then that is a very useful tool. So it's combining experience with data to get to true insight.
It's I'm not that really deep in the data because I work with the major banks and they spend billions of dollars on these incredible databases, and that secret sauce of how they analyze the propensity of that investor to buy Bristol Myers, Squibb stock. That's their secret sauce, and they will kill me. I mean, they don't want it. But they want my webcasting data, and they want it, we actually API it in real time into sales, equity, marketing, and they're ingesting it in their trade buy. So we're in a real time crucible of trading. I mean, this is like the fast game. But I'll tell you what my clients say to me that wants to differentiate a founder's forum. So we're very similar to a founder's forum. They want to differentiate the experience of that investor who spends billions of dollars or millions of dollars at the bank to come to that conference. And they do it from every level of the experience, from not waiting online to get in your badge, to having when you print your badge, your one-on-one schedule is being printed out. No waiting on lines. Never can happen. They want to make sure that all content is on the platform because we do a tremendous amount of webcasting. There's slides, there's valuation reports. We're capturing every click, and we don't want people looking from this page and this page. We're pushing content. So we want people to trip over content to trigger data. Our clients have specialized this curating of a very specialized, a very concierge service that in the after effect is we get tremendous amounts of data from it. But what we get is that experiential, that this bank really cares about us. We don't wait. It's served up. And also we get curated experiences because of that analytical. So they're feeling that when they walk in the door, they're special. And obviously they do. So it's really, it does matter. And the business side is we're doing this large event. It's the 640 sessions in 2 hotels in San Francisco. And they want us to do RFID. There's like 50 doorways because they got so addicted to the data of like who's watching what, who's downloading what. But guaranteed, if their line for the badging with 10,000 attendees is more than 3 minutes, my head's going to roll. So it's just that interesting thing of like the curating of the experience. Once again, the attendees at the center, curating that experience. Integration is innovation, and your data is currency. But I think you have to kind of work in that matrix all together to find out what the activation should be, what data comes out, and then how to measure it. I mean, that's the world that we live in.
So we're coming up to the last 10 minutes. So I want to see if the audience has any questions that they have asked, or if you have any comments you want to contribute. If not, I have one last question for the panelists. So anybody has any questions? Comments? Nope. Okay. Oh, yes. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Thank you. I mean, this is the Founders Forum. It sounds like you've got a fantastic event. It's about Founders Forum. You've got a fantastic event. It's 5-star from everything you've described. It's curated. The people must be amazing. So consequently, I would assume that from the usual metrics of Net Promoter Score or qualitative feedback, your feedback is really good. But you guys have probably created something which is the culmination of various formats and various thinking to create something perfect. So when you get feedback, personal feedback, and I'm assuming the forum isn't very big, so you don't have huge quantities. So in terms of the written feedback that you get in the comments versus the stuff you're getting from AI, which is more effective? How do you which one has made a change to the way you host the event the next time? Or which one do you sort of value more? Well, I wouldn't say value more, but which has more of an impact?
I mean, I think you're right. We're really lucky because we have a limited data set. And I can, if I'm really interested or if I really want to drill down, I can go through every record if I want to, because we only have, 700 guests at our largest forum. So I have the luxury of really digging into the data when I want to, and also reviewing that more qualitative feedback, which is amazing. I think it really is a combination, because the sort of anecdotal feedback that we get is so helpful in that people will say things from, oh, I loved the gift bag, to, oh, I met this investor and actually we're making a deal next week. And that's just huge, because we can, as a marketer, I mean, I love that. I can take the soundbite, I can put it on the website, happy days. The AI-driven data and the more sort of technical data that we collect via, we leverage tech to do that, that really steers us, I think, in our long-term strategy. So we can see, okay, how many people are using these functionalities in our app, and how does that pivot? Okay, how do we leverage the app moving forward? We want to encourage that in-person networking and those connections that only happen in real life. We had so many Zoom calls over the pandemic. We know that there's something about in-person networking that just cannot translate to online. So we want to be encouraging that behavior and not having everyone staring at their phones the whole time. So how do we take the data about how people are using our app and use that to make it into something that helps people and enhances the in-person experience without drawing them all into their phones? And so we took off meeting scheduling from our New York app, and we said, okay, don't want to have people scheduling meetings using the app. We want to sort of curate that serendipity and have natural conversations flowing, but really important for us to move the messaging feature in the UX and make it super salient on the homepage and have people messaging so that they're making sure that they're making those in-person connections happen. So it's little bits of data like that are quite granular, but that actually steer us to sort of leverage tech to streamline the experience.
So I want to do one last question, and these are the questions from the audience. So I will combine two of them together because we have limited time. So one of the questions is, what does the future look like for those that fail to invest in data and AI in the future? And with a potential recession coming up, how do you convince to make an investment in AI? I think these two, they are closely related. So what is your response to that?
I think from an executive standpoint, trying to get them to invest in it, first of all, I think it can be a minimal investment. And I think sometimes people expect it to be a very huge budget item. And I think if you do it cleverly, it can be done with minimal cost. So I would start there, minimize cost. Then in terms of the justification, in a recession is the perfect time to do it. Because the more you can analyze what's working and not working, the more you can make future decisions to invest in the right areas and de-invest in those where it doesn't make sense. And so it is the moment to sell in data and analytics into our space.
And I will jump in. There's actually lots of data that shows that the companies that invest the most in marketing during recessions, they are doing way better when the recession is over versus the rest. Just to that point.
I mean, you have to get started. I mean, the ship has sailed. We've been pushed into the digital 3.0. I mean, so we need to get started, beachhead. And I believe start out small, measurable, and build on success. And keep building, but get on the train. It's going to get better. It's going to get, more critical. And it's, just like, for my contemporaries or, I mean, you need to have your open APIs. You need to be starting to talk together. It's not like I do this and that's the only thing. We're really talking about interoperability, and we're also talking about we need to get into the deep tech space, and it's not really that expensive. Start small, measurable, and build, and find the stakeholder within your business that will be your champion. Because as an outside, as a vendor, even though they call you a partner, you're still a vendor. You need to have that internal stakeholder that evangelizes and keep that conversation going, because it's for their own good. It's for the good of the business, ultimately.
So, Emily, do you have?
And just quickly, I think come back to the why. Why are you doing it? Are you having AI for the sake of having AI? Or are you looking at, okay, what are we all already doing that can be streamlined and can be made more efficient via AI technology?
And usually technology is creating the efficiencies that propels us to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. With that, I want to thank, first of all, our great panelists for being here. Marianne flew from the US, but also Dax and Emily. And I'm going to invite our panelists and everybody in the audience, if you want to continue the conversation in our booth, it's A15 in the corner, because I saw a few questions about privacy, about ethics and so forth, and I would really like to discuss this in depth. So A15 in the corner over there. I would welcome again panelists, the audience, to come join us and have another conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Panos.
Thank you very much, guys. There's also a session at 3 p.m. that myself and Panos are on. I can't remember which theatre it is right now, but we're demystifying AI, so do come and listen to that as well.